And then we can still share from there. And I do think we're live on there because I do see.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you were live.
There we are. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Here I'm working the
I am too.
over here.
It's all good. What's interesting, and this is real life, right, Karen? This
This
is
is real life.
trying to figure out live stream as we're in the thick of it. And okay, so we're not in the Facebook group, but that's okay. We're on the business page. We're gonna figure it out. This is what we do in menopause. We figure things out. And the ladies in my group are very, very familiar with me trying to figure out technology because often there's a couple minutes at the beginning of my videos that are like this. So for those of you that are joining us live or catching us on the replay, this is my good friend Karen Rae. She is the founder of Fave, and I am so excited to have a conversation all about Karen's journey in menopause and just as a business owner and amazing inspirational friend, how menopause has kind of brought to light some things and kind of changed some pathways in the journey and that kind of thing, and just getting some real conversation about what menopause means and what that looks like both personally and professionally. So thank you so much, Karen, for joining me and figuring this whole thing out together.
Absolutely. I've been in that seat where you're punching buttons and it's like, I'm not sure it's really live. What's it's going to look like. But one of the things that you brought up earlier today that just is sitting just right with me is having a menopause party.
Yes.
What if we flip the script? Let's celebrate this season of life. And I call myself a woman of a more interesting age. And I'm on the other side. I've gone through the menopause. Technically I'm postmenopausal, and but there's just I can remember back just those kind of in the party stage. Going through these things. I was a woman. My kids were becoming empty. I was becoming an empty nester. My kids were about ready to leave the nest, and I was wondering why I was acting like a teenager. Even so, as a teenager, I was pretty mellow as far as most, the raging hormones and all that stuff. I was fairly even keeled for comparison. Sure. But one day I threw my arms up and I'm like, I am like a teenager. It's bothering me. And I just remember that, and just I think everybody's got a story, whether you're in the midst of it, you're walking into the party or you're past the party. There's different things at each stage, and it's really when you kind of get through it, you kind of forget some of the things until you look back, and it's like you can actually laugh, having a your own hot flash party and all that kind of stuff. But I remember standing there, and I was just starting this business of Fave Lifestyles. So I was becoming an empty nester, starting a business. It was really a passion project at that point. It wasn't even a business. So for the ladies who don't know, Fave Lifestyles is a community of women. We've got this beautiful movement called Celebrating 1 Million Women Being Brave. And we're coming together with our stories. So this is some of our stories of our brave stories that we have to, walk through. So let's join arms and do it together and have some laughs and everything with it. I wish I would have brought my balloons with me. But, I was walking through some things, and, I remember stopping one day and going, what is this? What's going on?
Right.
Because did your mom talk to you about menopause? I mean,
no. It wasn't something we discussed. It just what we didn't know, right? We didn't know a lot about it, and it certainly wasn't something that we, shared and talked about.
No. And I don't know about you, but even my girlfriends,
right?
It's kind of one of those things that you're just supposed to get through.
Yeah. We're women. We take care of things. We push through. We get it done. We don't complain. We don't put ourselves first. All of those things that, unfortunately, even now, we're still struggling with that. even now.
Absolutely. And I was not putting myself first. And I thought, okay, I just need to get through this, had some hot flashes, some, raging hormones, everything's changing. And, putting on a little weight, all of a sudden it's like, dang, yesterday I was 10 pounds lighter. What happened?
Right? Yep.
Because everything is changing so much.
Mhm.
But yet you're still supposed to be that other person, that you were.
Right.
And, it's like your body's changing, but you're not really supposed to change.
Right. You're
you
supposed
know?
to do all the things that you've always done and accept that, your body is different, but that's okay. We're just going to keep pushing through and it's going to be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was standing in my bedroom one day and I thought, there's something going on here. I need to figure this out.
Mhm.
And so I actually went to a counselor and because I thought it was something with my brain. I'm like, what's going on here? I'm not thinking the same. And what's happening? So I was starting to seek some answers of
Mhm.
and really realized that not only was my physical body changing, how I was thinking was changing too.
Mhm.
Because I find this in a lot of women who are in their 50s, that you want more meaning, more purpose, all those things. So
Sure.
besides all the other things happening, you're going into a new season of life.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so how does this all come together? And I love the idea of just, what if we just celebrated
Yeah.
this changing of seasons
Yeah.
and took a different look at it, and
Mhm.
what might that, and have these conversations of what it is like.
Mhm.
And, I've gone through some things and during that time, so I started this passion project that I changed, became a business, but I also was walking through a divorce at the same time too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we hit COVID. So I had like 5 major life changes. I had also been
Mhm.
a stay-at-home mom for 27 years,
Mhm.
walking through divorce and menopause and,
Yeah.
and what was that going to look like? So I monetized
Mhm.
Fave into this beautiful community
Mhm.
and, just and even walking through divorce and you're thinking, okay, I'm not as, you've gone through menopause. So it's like, well, I'm not the same woman that I was.
Right. Mhm.
Who's gonna want me?
Mhm.
Kind
Mhm.
of thing.
Mhm.
I mean, any other girls relate out there that have become single during that time of change?
The
You know?
very high rate of divorce during menopause for sure. And we don't talk about that either. We don't talk about any of that at all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so, I mean, oh my gosh, there's just so many challenges and changes, and how could we make this yeah, just different. Have
Mhm.
a have have a different look at it.
Mhm.
And one of my biggest things was not. I was really lucky. I didn't have a lot of the symptoms and things that a lot of the ladies have, but
Mhm.
weight was one of them. And
Mhm.
part of that was also going through a divorce and during and then hopping right into COVID where we weren't moving and doing all the things that we normally do.
Sure.
And so that's right now my biggest thing, postmenopausal
Mhm.
is that wellness piece, and what does that look like for me?
For sure. For sure. Karen, I think that we've known each other for, has it been a whole year?
I
I feel
think
like
so.
it's been forever, but like I love that I feel like I've known you forever. You're such a great gatherer of women and bringing people together and sharing stories. And one of the things that I've appreciated about you and our friendship is that you're just so you. Like this is
Thanks.
Karen. You're so giving. You're so inspirational, and you're so just your goal is for everybody to kind of find their people, right, and find that community and that kind of thing. But the one kind of shining light I think in all of the time that I've known you is stories. Like you love hearing about other people's stories, you love sharing stories, like everything is very, because we all have our own, right? We all have our own unique story. So tell me kind of if you can explain to the ladies watching, because I think it's really important for them to own their story and be able to share that, right? And I know that that's part of the vision with Fave, and I know there's some changes come in, and I'm excited for you. And you always have great ideas, and I'm sure it's going to just continue to grow and be an amazing opportunity for community. But what does stories mean to you in the whole menopause journey?
Oh yeah, I think what it means to me. So when I started Fave, I like I said, I was walking into empty nester, and I thought, okay, what's this next season of life going to look like for me? And my kids were really into filming. And I said, well, gosh, I can learn to, we had the regular cameras. We didn't have iPhones and stuff then. And
like adult film and stuff.
yeah. And so I was, what could we do? And so I started a web show, actually, as a passion project. And we have here in Woodinville, we have like 120 tasting rooms plus.
Oh.
And so lots of wineries. And so I went into one of the wineries and I said, if I bring some friends and we bring some cameras, can we host an event here? And they said, yeah, sure. And I said, I'll interview you. I can ask you some questions. And figured I had never filmed, I'd never interviewed, I'd never done any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought I can do it, just learn.
Yeah.
and I thought, you know what? I know a lot of really interesting women. And so at the first show, I interviewed the winery, their tasting room manager, and we talked about wine. And because I knew every winery had a story as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so we told that story. And then I interviewed a good friend of mine, Lori London. She's a New York Times bestselling author. And she has a very interesting story. And then we did some other fun things too. But I realized like everything was a story, every business, everybody had some kind of story to take you through. And I learned a little bit of the storytelling through my son, Cameron, because that's kind of was his major in college.
Okay.
And in journalism and communications. And so we worked on that and started developing that. And then we introduced our favorites, and that's how the name Fave came. But really throughout whatever I have done, it's always been about the story and the woman. And that's why I don't want to just tell the story. I want to celebrate it. I want to celebrate those moments of where we overcame, or we had to tap into our grit, and we did it, and we can celebrate that where we are today. And then that's so important to me, no matter where I pivot or where I go. And that's why women too can come to the Fave platform at favelifestyles.app and share their story. There's no cost. You just go in there. It's interview style. And then we pick out a few of the ladies to interview. We did a book project last year. Who knows what's in the future?
Yeah.
But we'll be going forward with this project of being brave. And so we can share the stories, and whether that's your menopause story or whatever that is, we want to be there. We don't want to just have you tell your story. We want to be there to support you. And that's why, Jennifer, there's people like you that are part of our community, because we need those support partners. We need those ladies to hold our hand and take us through those next brave steps, because menopause is like this unknown world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It really is.
And women, I'm finding, are not feeling heard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the bravery of being able to share your story when you feel like, is it a story that's worth telling? Of course it is.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not feeling that you're getting the support when you're saying, you're telling your story to friends, family, providers, colleagues, whoever it is, you're not getting that feedback of your story needs to be heard. It's easy to get silent about it, right? And stop sharing it. And so that, I think, for both of us that's our goal, right? Is to like shout it from the rooftops. Like everybody's story deserves to be told. And there can be a lot of therapeutic value to that, to be able to share it, but also the other women's lives, other people's lives, other young ladies' lives that you'll touch, that will hear that and be able to, unlike us, that we didn't talk about it a lot growing up. Like now we can have those conversations, and it's less of an unknown for women as they're walking into this, from their 20s, 30s, 40s and beyond. So.
Right. And so part of my story too is like, I said hit that beginning part of going into this passion project, doing all these things, then walking through a divorce, which was unexpected to me. And, but I realized I was at this place that we'll just say this, my pivot point was when I I was going to see a counselor. I wanted to see a male counselor because I was really trying to understand the male side of what I was walking through with a divorce and all this. And one day that I had been going for a while, and one day I walk in, and the male counselor, he was sitting there, and he had this big white piece of paper sitting on his lap. And he goes, Karen, there's your piece of paper. And he goes, there's your black Sharpie. And he goes, I want you to write one word on it. And he goes, how do you feel in your life and your marriage? And I'm going to call myself a recovering people pleaser, and I live to the expectations of what I think everybody else is thinking of that I should be doing.
I don't know
And,
anybody else like you, Karen. There's no other women.
and I'm thinking, what word does he want me to write?
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
and because all my life people had told me how to feel, how to think, what I should do, blah blah blah, because
Mhm.
I had surrounded myself with these very strong personalities.
Yeah.
And so finally I wrote down a word, and then I'm worried that I'm misspelling it. So I write the word, I'm like looking at it, and I lift it up, and so we lifted our papers at the same time, and we had the same word.
Oh.
We had the word invisible.
Oh.
And he goes, Karen, he almost with tears in his eyes, he goes, Karen, you are invisible in your life and in your marriage.
Mm.
And it still makes me want to cry today
Oh. Yeah.
because I can still feel that. And I walked out of there and with alligator tears, and I said, you know what? I got to start showing up for me.
Mhm.
And that's the moral of the story.
Mhm.
Ladies, you got
Mhm.
to show up for you. So whether you're going through menopause or something else, you got to show up for you.
Mhm.
And that's what I started doing. I had to start putting myself first, which I was not used to. I was used to putting everybody else, lifting everybody else up. You are great. And so I really had to start taking care of myself.
Mhm.
Honestly.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
and I think I did a pretty good job. So I had kind of these three pillars. I thought, okay, I have to make a choice, which I did.
Mhm.
Show up for myself. My second pillar was education. Education is power, girlfriends.
Mm.
The, the more you learn about menopause and what you can do for yourself,
Mm.
to question
Yeah.
what you're being taught. Question, is there something else? What are the other options? Learning the questions to ask. That's part of the education. That's
For
part of
sure.
the power. And the
Mhm.
third thing was, who are you surrounding yourself with?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think isn't that what our moms taught us?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who are your friends?
Right.
And so I started surrounding myself with people who lifted me up, who
Mhm.
believed in me, who heard me,
Mhm.
and valued that I had something to say too.
Yeah.
And so
Um,
I felt heard. And
mhm.
yeah, so and then it's just the story goes on, and there's been a lot of other challenges and stuff, but just to realize that you can live by those things, and whatever your pillars are for yourself, but just showing up and not feeling invisible anymore, not putting myself lower just because that's the doctor, you
Yeah.
know and
Yeah.
he's authority. You
Mhm.
can question, you are at that same level.
Yeah.
I think when I see so many comments and stuff, in groups and whatnot, I think that is just the biggest thing. How do we advocate for ourselves?
Right. Right. So, Karen, there's a lot of women in the group who I do feel uh, aren't sure of how to ask the question, aren't sure of what that next step might be, or even where to start. Because to your point, they've been told that just kind of deal with it, just get through it. Just, the kids need you, maybe the significant other needs you, your work needs you, everybody else kind of needs things, right? And
Yeah.
so take care of your body later, or we don't even really mention that necessarily, right? So if women are kind of have experienced that, which many of us have, um, what do you think is one or two steps, easy steps that they can take to kind of start feeling, finding their voice, finding their space to take a, to get almost bigger in their own space, so that they can then have those conversations with providers and that type of a thing, doctors, whoever they might be.
Yeah, I guess what comes to mind, and maybe because it's just important in my life right now,
Great. Love it.
is asking yourself what you're available for. You talk a lot about boundaries, and then I'm going to go over to the second point about questioning.
Sure.
But I had to kind of say, what am I available for? Am I available to be feeling this way? Am I available for these hot flashes?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I am, great, just move on.
Right.
Realize that, okay, it's like, I'm going to accept it. But if not, then let's start questioning.
Mhm.
And I will tell you, I grew up in a family where we did not question.
Yeah.
Or I didn't. Maybe I think my other sisters, I think, did, but I just had my personality, I did not.
That
And
the whole
because I
people
felt like,
pleaser.
yeah, I felt like I was already supposed to know the answers.
Mm.
And so I'm not a big researcher. And I know a lot of ladies, now we've got so much information we can
Sure.
sort through and whatever. But just to, ask what are the options? What are the possibilities?
Mhm.
One of the things that really hit me when I was walking through my divorce, my oldest son, Cameron, came to me one day and he goes, Mom, I have a gift for you. I'm looking in his hands and there's nothing there. And he goes, Mom, I want to give you the gift of opportunity. So you can see all the possibilities in life.
Oh, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So sweet.
Yeah. And it still takes my breath away.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And he goes, Mom, he goes, take a notebook. Why don't you take a notebook without any reality attached to this? What would be the possibilities? Like if you wanted to travel, don't see how it's not going to happen or whatever. So maybe even do something like that with whatever symptoms or whatever it is, to just address and say, this weight gain. I'm
Mhm.
That's not what I would want. I would want to be over in this column, the column that is and
Right.
what could be.
Right.
Could it be that I could be different? Because
Mhm.
that's the thing too. I don't think I thought I could be different. I
Mm.
thought, oh, I have to accept this weight gain,
Mhm.
or I have to just give up everything and I'm not disciplined and I'm not this and that. And
Right.
so it was a big, head. It was more of a head game than anything.
Mhm.
And and then because then some questions might start flowing.
Yeah.
How could I do this? What would it be like if I had a coach or if I worked with somebody? Not looking at, okay, I don't have the money or whatever.
Right.
What might that look like? And what would I want out of that?
Mhm.
What would be, is it peace of mind? Is it, just a simple number? Is it, I want to learn how to eat better?
Mhm.
Whatever. What are all the possibilities?
Right.
And I call it I have a book of brilliant ideas.
Yeah. I love it.
What are the possibilities? And
Yeah.
start, so just and then that too turns it from a negative, like, oh, this heavy weight that you're burdened with this menopause new
Right.
body or whatever,
Right.
or whatever the symptoms are. What could it be? Could it be lighter? I want my life to be light and breezy and fun and
Yeah.
happy. And, if it isn't that way, then what could be the possibilities?
Mhm. Mhm.
What could it
Love
be?
that. Yeah. Love that. So questioning first and foremost, and really opening up the possibilities, the opportunity for something different that
Yeah.
you get to choose instead of feeling like it's happening to you.
Yeah. Happening
You
for
get to
you.
step up and see what's happening for you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you
I
get to
love that.
choose. You get to create that life. I was on, all right, I have a granddaughter. Her name is Olive, and she's
Love it.
just adorable.
She
Adorable.
is
She's 2
adorable.
years old.
Mhm.
And so I texted them. I said, oh, what's Olive up to today?
Yeah.
Because I knew they had just moved. So I thought, I was checking on them to make sure she was
Yeah.
doing all right and all that.
Yeah.
And her mom she goes, oh, she's just living her best life.
Mm.
Olive is just living her best life. Just going to the park. And what would that look like if we each day lived our best life?
Wow. That's a powerful question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would that? It would be filled probably with a lot of joy
Mhm.
and a
Mhm.
lot. We would might just approach things just ever so slightly different.
Yeah. Yeah. And we would make decisions out of a higher energy, right? So if we're feeling that joy and that fulfillment and that quality of life and all of those things, regardless of what the scale is saying, regardless of whether we're having hot flashes, not in spite of, but just, recognizing the physical changes, the emotional changes that are happening, but then what are we choosing to do with that? How are we choosing to show up? And I love the opportunity to show up in joy
Yeah.
and figure out how we get to there instead of, staying in the frustration.
Yeah. And realize too. So, I mean, it's, perimenopause, you're in menopause and you're postmenopause.
Yeah.
They're all these seasons
Right.
that you move through.
Yeah.
and it flows.
Yeah.
And so I feel very fortunate to be where I'm at. I feel like, so I'm 64, and I feel that I'm entering this real, very beautiful stage of life.
Mm-hmm.
I call it my sage years because we've come to realize what's so important,
Mm-hmm.
and tapping into the wisdom and experiences of other women.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something you can do in any age. And I did not really do that at a younger age. I didn't tap into the experiences of people who have gone before me.
Right. Right.
And there's
Yeah.
lots to be learned there too. So girls, ask your girlfriends. They may or may not have the right answer, but they might have some resources. So
Yeah. Ask your mom, ask your aunt, ask your friends, ask, just ask. I think, and I love, I mean, we're talking about stories, or we've been talking about stories, and people love sharing their stories because
yeah,
it's a part of them, and it's a beautiful expression of their life. And it's really, there's a lot of wisdom and a lot of joy. And we all love to, think about those happy moments and share some of those, and also help others learn from some of the not so happy moments, but be able to really have a deeper understanding of, even where we come from. If it's our family we're talking to, where do we come from? What, some of the things I know with my, my own family, it's like you talk about some things and you're like, oh, that's why I do that. Like it makes so much sense now.
yeah,
And so there's the making those connections of personality types or different, habits that we have, and that kind of thing is really interesting.
yeah. And one thing that has become really important for me, which I am just learning. Sometimes, when we talk to maybe a girlfriend or something, we're telling about, what we're, what's happening, what we're feeling, we're not being heard or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
To know that, when you're talking about that, what is it you want out of that conversation?
Mm.
Do you
Yeah.
want, do you want advice?
Yeah. Right.
Do you want just a hug?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to be validated? Do you want your emotions validated?
Mm-hmm.
And so also being able to express that,
Yeah.
because sometimes if you're in the journey, you
Yeah.
just really need to be validated that, hey man, this is hard.
Yep.
This, whatever is happening to me is really unsettling and
Mm-hmm.
uncertain, and I don't know what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
You just want somebody to validate that. So you're in the midst of your story. When
Mm-hmm.
you're through your story, you're learning the lessons of from the story, or
Mm-hmm.
how you can have some hope or inspiration to take those next steps.
Yeah.
But I feel like that one of the things that has been really important to me is to express lately that, you know what, I just need somebody to validate that I'm sad, or that I'm lonely, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling alone, or whatever it is, or I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to understand my excitement. Just
Right.
yeah, good for you.
Right. Right. Just be excited with me.
But yeah, but because that's part of most of our stories is about how we feel. So we share the stories at Fave, and we do that in person. We do it on, a lot of times like this.
Mm-hmm.
And we have these paddles that say, I relate. And
Mm.
the paddles always go up when it's something she's felt.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily about the circumstances. It's about how she got through it, and what she's feeling now, that she's proud
Mm-hmm.
of herself, or whatever. And those are the real relatable things of our stories. So ladies, know that you're probably in the midst of a story,
Yep. Yep.
and recognize that. And what are the lessons that you're going to learn through it?
Mm-hmm.
What's the inspiration that you're going to get out of it? I know sometimes that's really hard. It's like, boy, I'm learning a lot of
Right.
lessons.
I'm learning too many things at one time.
Do I have to keep learning? Do I have to go through this challenge, this chaos to learn something?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. We sometimes we don't understand what we're going through, but
Mhm.
as soon as we can start the conversation, I have a lot of women who say to me, I don't know, why doesn't anybody understand me? Why doesn't anybody understand that this is hard? Why doesn't my spouse doesn't understand? My kids don't understand. And I'm like, so many times, and my estimation is it's because we don't understand ourselves.
Mm.
And so we're trying to explain a story that doesn't make any sense yet. And so as we start to share and we start to just say, like you're saying, this is unsettling. I don't get it. This is frustrating. I was talking to a woman today and she's like, I am so moody. And I'm like, I can
Mhm.
relate to that. I can
Mhm.
absolutely relate to that. Just because, you and I talk about menopause and we help other women to kind of see and share their story doesn't mean that we aren't having our own story and understand that personally, right?
Right.
So just being able to continue the conversation. And if anybody that's watching is the kind of person who likes to be a little quieter and doesn't really like to be as vocal about their story, maybe writing it down, journaling or writing it and not having to share it with anyone, but just
Yeah.
really starting to kind of process through that, even in written form. And then, if you want to shout it from the rooftops, shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah. Okay, so for those ladies who don't really want to share their story or where they're at, or they don't want to share their journey,
Hmm. Hmm.
one of the things that I have done recently, okay, AI is good for all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
ladies, if AI knows you, or you just even go in there and use it as a journal,
Hmm.
and so I use ChatGPT, and I go and I say, I'm feeling uncertain. I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I'm feeling doubt. This is kind of journal what, nobody's understanding me. I don't even understand me. And write down some things. So I did that. And I wrote down how I was feeling and all this. And I'm going to town on this. And I said, I just need somebody to hear me. I'm not kidding. See what chat says back to you. Chad, this is actually a really good friend.
Yeah, it really is.
And especially since I use it a lot, it knows me.
Sure.
I know it really did. It kind of, but it sorted out my thoughts for me and kind of
Hmm.
put in points. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
I can understand how you would feel that way.
Hmm.
And it said, Karen, you're doing great.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
could bet when doubt creeps in, here's some things to think about.
Mm. That's awesome.
Yeah, try it out, girls.
Yeah.
So, we'll do a prompt.
Yeah.
We'll prompt you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I
they can
love that.
do their little stories and see what chat says to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's not making, I mean, it's taking your information
Yeah,
and sorting through it
yeah,
and giving you feedback based on all of the amazing things that you do that you don't necessarily give yourself credit for. I love that.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, Karen, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything else that you want to share with the ladies about Fave, how they can get a hold of you, how we can, support the Fave movement celebrating 1,000 or 1 million, sorry, 1 million women. We're not stopping at 1,000. We're going to go to 1 million and beyond.
Yeah, and I chose that number. It kind of downloaded to me during COVID, actually, because I was had gone through divorce, so I was living on my own, first time in my life living on my own ever.
Okay.
And I moved to Whidbey Island, which is an island, and during the wintertime on the space, it's like no people.
Mm,
And so it's condos, and there was like two other people out of 30 condos.
wow.
And then on the beach, there was nobody because in the summer homes, everybody was gone.
Wow.
So in my little space, it kind of got downloaded because I felt that I needed to show up every day for other people and it helped me get kind of dressed. And
Mm,
I went live 4 or 5 days a week,
wow.
and just to show up
Yeah.
and I had a point to that.
Celebrating 1 million women. No, this is menopause. This is what we do.
Oh yeah, so the 1 million women. I thought, this will take me to the end of my days to celebrate that many women,
Wow.
and so that's why I chose a number that was so big,
Okay.
and I feel like God downloaded it for me and said,
Sure.
"This is what I want you to do. This, if you're going to do something, let's go celebrate women."
Yeah.
And this Being Brave project has come along, and so that's our current theme is being brave, and so any type of story comes into that, but to tell your story on a platform, you would have to be through the story. You can't be in the middle of it. You have to be at that place where you've learned the lessons, or
Mhm.
it can inspire you or somebody else. And it's really, like you were saying earlier, it's really a healing process
Sure.
to write that. And we did it interview style, so it'd be easy.
Yeah.
So, ladies, if you're ever thinking that you have a story to share, I encourage you to come over and share your story to inspire another woman, because there's somebody who needs to hear your story. You are a light. I want to let you know your presence. who you are is worth celebrating. It's not just that it matters. You are worth celebrating. And that's what I want to instill into you today, that you are special, and to show up in all your brilliance and all your beauty.
I love that.
Yeah. So yeah, come visit us over at favelifestyles.app. And we're going to be having some fun things for the movement. And so we also have a group at Fave Lifestyles. You can come visit us over there for some inspiration,
Yes.
and for some brave steps that we're
Yes.
going to be taking together, and some fun things. So lots happening.
That sounds amazing. Amazing. So once I post this in the Facebook group, I'll put your contact information below there. So if anybody wants to join Karen's group or contact her or see the book that's out, you know, as part of the Fave Lifestyle, there's so many things going. There's so many things.
So many things. I'll put some fun links and things in there too.
Please do, because everybody needs to have Karen in their world. So
oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And ladies, if you have any questions about anything that we've discussed, feel free to drop them below, and I'll make sure that Karen and I can chat about that, and we can get you the answers of anything in particular that you have questions about. But thank you so much, Karen, again.
Thank you,
ladies,
Jennifer.
for showing up for us, and showing up for yourselves, because that's really what this is all about. So have a wonderful night.
Yeah. Bye.